So it's a strange thing that we live in, you know? When Tony Bennett comes to my show and then tweets about it, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
What's going on? It's a crazy world.
Yeah, no, definitely. And welcome to This Crazy World. You're listening to the Big Questions podcast, where we talk about love, death, sex, religion, and all the big questions worth asking. I'm your host, Robert K. Elder. And you know the voice. You've recognized him. This is Ralphie May talking with me today.
Hi, everybody.
And Ralphie is performing this weekend at the Improv in Schaumburg, Chicago Improv, April 4th through 6th. Tickets and information at chicago.improv.com. The Big Questions is sponsored by Shure, purveyors of professional microphones and headphones, and you can check them out at shure.com, shure.com. The Big Questions is also part of the Sun Times Media Local Podcast Network. And Ralphie, just coming back around all this, so like you just moved recently, right? So you're a Southerner. Did you move back to Nashville? Did I remember?
Well, we bought a house in Nashville when we were redoing our house in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I'm born in Tennessee, so I wanted to move back, and I want my kids to have a Southern accent. I think
it's too late. Like they're like what, 7 and
no, 6 and 4, 6 and 4. But they spend a lot of time. But we've had the house there since our son was born in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he has it, but my daughter doesn't have enough of it. You know, when she gets down there, it drums it. Primes it up.
Right.
If you're around it, you hear it more.
Have you taught her to say siren?
Yeah, actually, I am a big siren type of fan. And champagne, too. Okay?
Oh, champagne?
Yeah, champagne, sirens. Oh, my gosh. We butcher the English language. But I think it's endearing. You know, people make fun of us for using words like yonder. And it's like, really? You're going to scold us for that? You know, but they think the worst about us. You know, illiterate, redneck, hillbilly, white trash. All right? But then you figure that, you know, the greatest use of the word was by William Shakespeare. Well, light through yonder window breaks, you know, so it's like it's kind of a nice homage, you know, if you will.
Yeah.
But then
Hank Williams is the hillbilly Shakespeare. Yeah.
Exactly. So we bought a house in Nashville, and I love that fact. I say that we've got a house in Nashville. A house in Los Angeles and one in America. And you know, it's a very strange thing that happens in Los Angeles. It's people are different. It's where everybody else in the rest of the country goes to escape. And so, you know, you routinely hear, you know, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Right.
Shut up. Just shut up. just don't even, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. First of all. Okay. And we're in a restaurant. Can you dial it back? Your bullshit. Can you dial me back? I'm trying to eat over here, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's either that or Sedona. So you got to pick your battle. Yeah. Your spiritual.
Oh my God. Yeah. People are like drum circles. Kill yourself.
I went to school in Eugene, Oregon. I know all the drum circles.
Right. But a lot of stinky white people in Eugene, Oregon.
There's
a lot of stinky white people up there. Herbal out, man. Hippies. Yeah. Oh, I don't use soap. I don't believe in deodorant. Ugh. I don't believe in stinking either. Man.
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
Yeah. No, you got to be free. But I'm just interested in, you know, what's the difference between the LA you and the Nashville you. So like, how do you find yourself?
There's no difference between me. There's no difference. But my wife, she loves LA. She loves working out at a boot camp every day and then going for hikes. And then, like, you know, she drags me to a juice bar. All right. You know, I don't mind juice. I like vegetables. I'm a weird fat guy. So I kind of like it, you know, but I am the only fat guy there. I guarantee that. Everybody else is, you know, fresh from yoga class or Pilates or some shit.
Well, they have a quota.
Yeah, exactly. They got to allow one fat guy in. That's awesome.
Well, and you know, that was my other question. So your wife is Lana Turner.
Yes.
And she also a stand-up comedian. So, you know, stand-ups in general are, you know, very particular personalities. But what is it like to be married to another stand-up?
You know, for us, it's great. You know, we laugh all the time. There's not a competition. Like, I'm not a competitive person when it comes to stand up. You know, I want to root for everybody to do great. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not one that covets what another person's achieved.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. You know, me being secure in who I am makes it so much easier to, you know, live with another comic. And she's great. My wife is the salt of the earth. I mean, she is a peach. You know, she's kind to animals. She recycles. She's a fantastic mom. She's funny. She's dirty. She's hot. You know, I mean, who could ask for anything more, man?
Yeah.
You know?
And for those of you who haven't checked it out, you should check out their podcast. podcast, Perfect 10. It has the greatest, most profane theme song
Yes.
that I don't even want to quote, but you should check it out. And you have a Netflix kind of plan for your podcast. So tell me about it.
Yeah. We think that putting out a weekly podcast and or a daily podcast is kind of old fashioned. It's like, it's the same thing with television. We see the evolution in TV. People want to binge watch when they have time. They want to binge watch. For us, it'd be, if they're traveling, we're going to release a whole season, and you can download at your preference, and you can pick whatever you want. They're all evergreen shows. Nothing is topical, and it's a neat concept. It's a next evolution, I think, in what podcasting is. You come out with all these episodes, and then boom, people are like, what? And then it just allows more time for people to react to it. Like when you first heard about House of Cards, or you heard about The Orange is the New Black. These Netflix shows are so hot because people can binge watch and then talk about them. It gives you enough time to fall in love with something. If it's only 30 minutes, then it's like, whatever. It was a show, I guess. Yeah. It's not noteworthy. But when you've got, 12 hours, and they're all different, and it's all funny, and it's well edited. There's bits, there's whole things. The whole show it's a whole season. I think it's a neat concept. It's something that nobody hasn't been done yet.
Well, and what is the challenge of doing a podcast with your wife? Does all of a sudden that just become marriage counseling?
No. She does the majority of it because right. I'm out of town, and I do some bits and some interviews. When I have friends that, we did a 2-part interview with Trace Atkins right. before the meltdown a little bit on the cruise. At his house with now his wife that he's getting divorced with. Okay. And we were there, and I talk about marriage, and I talk about some serious stuff with him, you know, and, he wouldn't have opened up to a reporter that way. He wouldn't have opened up to a different podcast that way. But because we're friends and he trusted me, I took out I said, if you have any sensitive things that, in hindsight that you wish you hadn't said, by all means tell me and I'll edit it out. And I sent him the final approval. Nobody in media ever does that, but he's a buddy of mine. Right. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or cause a drama between us. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Sure. But there's no downside to doing a podcast with your wife at all?
Downside, the fact that if I don't do it, then I hear about it in my in my private life, you know, that there's extra sanctions she can put on her husband to do something that she can't do to a normal guy, and so I just listen to what my wife says, and I just do what she says. I think that's the best move, is always just do what your wife says. Well,
and I listened to your recent interview with Rover just a little bit ago, and you talked about always being in trouble with your wife.
Yeah.
Has that mellowed out a little bit?
It has. My wife was sick of me being tired all the time, but I was on a drug called Coumadin, and Coumadin, warfarin it's a blood thinner. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm tired all the time because I'm not getting oxygen. I've got very thin blood and a very big body. Okay. And so, yeah, I'm tired. And I was on the road too much, and I was having trouble sleeping. I was diagnosed with PTSD.
You almost died.
I almost died. I had pneumonia, and I had to stay awake, the majority of 11 days, because I had to work on every breath. I was given a 5 to 10% chance of living. And, I had, pneumonia, bilateral double pneumonia, and a pulmonary embolism. And not many people survive that. A lot of my buddies have died from that. Here in town, Bernie Mac died of that. Pneumonia and
Jim Henson embolism. Down.
Yeah, Jim Henson. Yeah. Okay. It's not just a fat thing. It's, it kills a lot of people. Pneumonia is a real killer. And then you had an embolism because you're coughing so much and you're not moving. You can't move. And, it was a very nip and tuck thing. And I had it on a cruise ship, and we couldn't be flown off the cruise ship because, there was a hurricane between us and Tampa. And so it was a very scary, thing. And it affected her too. It made her, my mortality and what her security would be if I wasn't there was a very scary thing. It's okay if it's just her, but it's her and 2 children now.
Yeah.
And their lives mean more. So I'm getting my shit together. I'm off of that drug. I'm off of all the brain drugs, okay, they had me on to pull me out of the PTSD. And I feel great. The best I've felt since before I got sick.
Yeah.
And I can exercise again. I can start losing weight again instead of being at this stupid plateau that I've been at for too long. And it's a nice evolution, it's a nice thing. But I got into a lot of trouble for that interview. I was being honest, and my wife was like, "How dare you?" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever you say."
Right, but comics, I mean, you're nothing if you're not authentic, or if you're not honest. So that's sort of a tough line.
It is a juxtaposition to have to be, for what you do, you have to be honest. But if you're honest, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, and it's not always easy. You can say, "Oh, I was being truthful," but that's just a cop out. It's a cover,
right.
You hurt somebody's feelings. So I had to say I'm sorry, and I had to work on gaining her trust again. And we're doing great though. But it was a little hairy. It was a little hairy. I couldn't do anything about it. I was on this drug and I couldn't do anything about it. And I went to a doctor and he goes, "You haven't had anything for 2 years?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Let's pull you off of it." And I instantly felt better.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Well, and I think, you had a really, again, a tough time. And I think when people have near-death experiences, you have 2 reactions. One is that sort of like, bounding through fields of lilies and, just happy to be alive. But you had the exact opposite reaction, which is just trauma and, contemplating your mortality. I think it makes it worse when you're a father. And so I'm asking, what is the other side of that? You seem to be out on the other side. So how do you look at things differently?
I value my wife and kids so much more. And in doing that, it makes me want to be better. And because of that, I have a better relationship with my wife. She can't be, it's hard to be happy in everything you do if you worry about, your mate's, mortality. For me though, the PTSD was like, I would have nightmares. I was in a bed, and I had to stay awake, and the staying awake, your brain still dreams, eventually. And so you have insomnia-induced dementia, and where you're loopy as hell, and people think you're on drugs and you're drunk. I wasn't either. That
landed you in rehab?
Yeah. But they were like, you're not an addict. Okay. They did the blood work and no withdrawal. They go, what's going on? And I go, I can't sleep for days on end. And they go, that's it. And it happened there. Yeah. And while I'm being drug tested 3 times a day and, being monitored, and everything's been searched and stuff, and there's nothing, you can't get anything. Okay. And it happened there and under doctor's care. And they're like, yeah, you got sleep-induced dementia from PTSD. It's one of the symptoms. You get crazy.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you didn't go out and start setting up fight clubs? Because you are not Tyler Durden.
Yeah, I wasn't Tyler Durden. I wasn't making soap. No, I wasn't setting up fight clubs. But I had to go and buy, after therapy, I had to go and buy all new sheets and stuff because white sheets would flash me back to being in the hospital. So we had to put dark colors on all of it. And I had to, if I don't sleep, 6 to 7 hours a day, I have to call and get medicine to put me under.
Yeah.
And Ambien is a scary thing. That's just what happened in Fort Hood.
It's a zombie drug.
It's a zombie drug, and you already have all this mental stuff, and then you add a drug that you can still be awake on, and then it makes you loopy. It's a very dangerous combination, and that's just what happened in Fort Hood, in Killeen. And it's mental health is something that is very underscored. People go, "Oh, you went to rehab. Oh, what are you, addict? Or what were you on?" Actually, I was exhausted and I had PTSD. And, they're like, what really? What war were you in? Oh, well, I was just in a war for my life, a near-death experience, whether it's in a war zone or in a hospital, is still a near-death experience,
and or on a cruise ship. I think that's worse.
yeah, exactly. I was surrounded by people who don't speak English. Okay, the doctor that doesn't speak English, and the bottom of a ship, going, yeah, this is where I die. This is where I die right here. Okay, very scary.
Well, and now, are you still traveling on a tour bus with your face on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
it's a mobile billboard. It's a mobile billboard.
But it's still your face on the highway.
Yeah.
So what is the effect of that? Because I got to imagine rest stops are very interesting.
They are, but I like people, so it's not a big deal. If people go, Ralphie May, okay, it's like, hi, how are you? You want a picture? Sure, no problem. Autographs, no worries. I like people, so it doesn't bother me. But I was spending $10,000 a week in advertising on billboards, and now I just park one in front of the venue, and it's just better advertising for me, and it's a place to live. I have my own bed. It's cave-like dark in there. My own shower. I don't have to go to other. That's a big part of when you tour. Just slipping your stuff in, unpacking. A different hotel. Like one time, I remember I was so out of it. I thought I was going to the restroom, and I was just wearing my boxers, and I walked into the hallway just to hear it click, click as the door closed behind me. Okay, so now you got to make that walk of shame down to the front, and then the guy asked me for ID, and I go, really? Would you like to see my penis? Okay, because that's all I got on me. All right, now, why don't you got the internet back there? Google my name, Ralphie May. Okay, see if the image just doesn't come up. But that was
he Googled and your penis came up.
No, I'm not a congressman. I don't allow my penis to be on the internet.
I'm just saying, how do you know it was you? That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
But so this is the other thing. So you're on the Filthy Animal tour, and so what is the effect when the bus pulls up to the venue, Filthy Animal tour, and a little boy and girl 4 and 6 just jump down the stairs?
Well, I know, it's so funny because when my son was 3, we did the Gathering of the Juggalos.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I took my son for a walk and stuff. He was exhausted by the afternoon, and my son was always very prudent in his life. He knows what he needs.
Right.
And he's like, Daddy, I need to take a nap. I'm like, let's go, son. I'm always been a big nap fan. Okay. So we went to the bus, and we're in the bus, and Ron Jeremy is at the Juggalos, and I've known Ron for years, since before I had my wife. I've known Ron, and he walked on the bus. Normally I would say came on the bus, but that's got different connotations when it's Ron Jeremy.
He does that enough.
Exactly. And my bus driver knew Ron, and they snuck back to our room and opened it up, and Ron turned on the lights going, wake up, as a big prank, right? And my son sat up and goes, beat it, cocksucker, I'm sleeping here. Okay. And when we're recording this for our Perfect 10 podcast, we're recording at the Juggalos, together in the Juggalos. And Ron's talking, and he goes, we're like, Ron, what did my son call you? He goes, I think he was actually calling me a car sucker, because August was playing with a matchbox. And my daughter, who was 5 at the time, goes, no, he called you a cocksucker. Okay, he called you a cocksucker. And then August goes, cocksucker. Okay, what's funny is that people are like, they thought it was all set up, and it wasn't. But my kids wanted to know, Daddy, what's a cocksucker? Because my son knew the word to say. Okay, like you scumbag, whatever.
Right.
All right. But we told him it's when someone sucks on your pee-pee, and they both were like, why would you do that? That's dumb. It was so funny. Like holding it back from him would have made this big mystery, but the fact that we told them honestly, they were laughing. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, God, no, I have twins who are 6 years old, and I just this week, my little girl said, Daddy, you're an N-word, and I'm like, oh no. oh no. And she says, you're nice. And I'm like, oh, that could have gone so many different ways.
Exactly.
Thank you
that
so
could have
much.
been so worse.
Little girl. Now, I mean, you've been in the public spotlight for a long time. You know, Last Comic Standing was, you know, I think your coming out party, but
right.
you also, you know, you opened up for Kinnison when you won a contest when you were young. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, in this time you've been in the public eye, how has the business of comedy changed?
Oh yeah. Big time. When I launched, there was, social media was MySpace. Okay. And MySpace alone. Mm-hmm. And then now it's, you know, once the first MySpace headliner was launched, Dane Cook, you know, megastar, that it really launched social media. And then after that became this wave of alt comedy, mm-hmm. which is not really punchline centric.
Yeah, story based.
It's like I'm going to tell you what happened in my day, and it's very dramatic, and I might cut myself. You know, I don't understand it. Okay,
people listening to Portishead.
Yeah. I don't understand that side of it. You know, to me, it's a very odd thing. You know, to watch you know, grown men, you know, basically whine, and as a man, I get frustrated by that, but that's the next millennial generation thing is they just talk it out and
but
everything's
Richard
cool.
Lewis made a career out of it, though.
Exactly. Richard was on good drugs, and he's really messed up. You know, he earns it. All right, but a lot of these guys don't. You know, it's a weird thing what's happening right now as far as stand-up goes. But this is my 25th year of stand-up comedy, so I've seen, you know, I saw the bust after the 80s boom. Okay, I saw every comic get a sitcom, and then no comedians get a sitcom, and then there's no sitcoms. And now the alt comic, you know, and these younger people, you know, it used to be, the audiences are getting more, mixed, which is great. You know, white, black, and brown, which is a healthy thing for stand-up comedy. But the performers are basically the vast majority of them are a lot alike, this next generation of stand-ups, a lot alike. There's not a lot of individuality. Like, they like being part of the herd, which for a comic has always been the complete opposite. You know, you stood out because you weren't part of the herd and you could comment on it. But at the same time, you know, jocks have moved from the coolest kids in school to the least popular. Nerds are made the evolution to where they control the world now. You know, it's a very strange thing, you know, the way it's happened. And nerdism is being accepted as, like all these Comic Cons.
Yeah, it's become a brand.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's something that's not even what it started out to be. It's been taken over. It's like the Tea Party. You know, the Tea Party was all no taxes, and now they hate black people. Oh, yeah. What happened?
But I think it's one of those things that, like, they're just reclaiming the term, and you're right. You know, nerds. I think you know, and I will consider myself proudly one of them, took over media because all the things that we thought were cool, like, you know, comic books and, you know, zines and all that sort of stuff, became mainstream because it had critical mass. But you're right, it is not what it once was.
Yeah.
But didn't comedy always have, you know, sort of a nerd core? Because, you know, there are very few sort of cool comics. You know, there's Dice Clay, there's, you know, Groucho Marx, but everybody else was more sort of insular. So am I wrong in that?
I think so. I think, you know, Illinois' Richard Pryor was they did a lot of drugs, you know, did the cool stuff, hung out with the coolest people in Hollywood, huge sex parties, stuff like that. It was like a rock and roll. You know, a rock star in the 70s and 80s is a lot different than a rock star now. You know, now social media is everywhere. Everyone watches everything. There's no mystery behind it. You know, whether it's a rock star or TV star, movie star, you now have access to everything. You watch TMZ and you know, you've got them going into the grocery store. It's like, wow, that guy goes to the grocery store? Yeah, he always did. All right. Just no one ever saw it.
Well,
you know?
And I was going to ask you, so you hosted TMZ here this week. So did you host TMZ to keep yourself from being on TMZ in a strange way?
No. That's how I got got it. That's how I got it. They fell in love with me after I, oh man, this is so stupid. I was so stoned. Okay. I was tired and I was stoned. And I got on a plane to Guam I thought I had removed roughly $3,000 worth of marijuana and marijuana products from my backpack. But the night before I left, I was in Stockton, California, and I was playing the Bob Hope Theater, and in the arena next door was Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg. And they were we had the same promoter, and we're on the same floor of the hotel. And I've known Snoop for years, him and his uncle Junebug, and the whole crew. We hung out, and Snoop gave me some of his new weed that he's branded and franchised as his very own. And he wrote on the bag, and I put it in my backpack, but I put it in a separate place, okay, a zipper inside pocket, and didn't think anything of it. And the next day, I'm at LAX. I put everything in the car. I got, you think you've got it all, okay? And I didn't. I took breath strips, which are THC breath strips, and my 18-hour flight to Guam was 2 naps. It was great. I got caught up on my sleep, and we land, and I walked down, and my wife's like, you don't have anything on you, do you? I'm like, no. She goes, great, because there's dogs everywhere down here. I'm like, great, I love dogs. So I got down, and I walked 68 feet out of my way to go pet a drug dog. And while I was there, I called another drug dog over, and they're both sitting in front of me. And that's their cue that they found drugs.
They sit down.
And they sit down, and they're not trained to bite it or go after it. These dogs, they sit down. They're very calm. And I'm petting these dogs, and they're looking back at their hand, and they're like, is this for real? Is this really happening? I mean, we know, okay, all right. And I'm so dumb. I'm thinking, hey, these dogs get it. They know I'm a dog person, okay. And so I got busted with bringing marijuana into Guam and petting a drug dog. And the TMZ heard that, and they go, is that for real? I'm like, yeah, I didn't mean to do it. I'm dumb. All right. I'm not some kind of mastermind, media mastermind that used this to help propel my brand. Okay. I'm just a dumb comic. Okay. And, they were like, wow, you're the most honest person we've had. So when I landed, they called me, and they sent photographers out there, and I brought them all lemonade and stuff like that. They're like, that's awesome. I've just been nice to them. And they caught me at LAX going to Boston, and I made fun of Harvey and Charles, the executive producers. How Harvey always wears tight shirts. Don't spill water on that shirt; it'll choke you. All right. And how Charles is light-skinned black guy with dreads. It's like, whoa, you're going for the skinny white girls. Oh, you're a poetry brother. I love it, baby. All right. And those two, that launched me into, hey, Harvey's out of town. Would you like to fill in for him? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So they picked me up at 5:30 a.m. and took me to the studio. And it was a really fun gig. It was really fun.
So I mean, circuitously, basically, Snoop Dogg is responsible for your TMZ gig.
Yeah.
Like, basically, that's
exactly what it boils down to. Yeah.
But the other thing is, I wonder how many people are stopped with weed and it's actually Snoop Dogg's fault. I wonder if there's a huge percentage.
Let's ask Exhibit. Okay, Exhibit was there. He got busted too. Same place I did. Yeah, it's like I know all the places where celebrities have gotten caught with drugs. Okay, the stop in Sierra Blanca, Texas. Okay, where they pulled over Willie Nelson, they pulled over Snoop. Okay, in the bus, and they searched the buses and stuff like that and find drugs. That's why when I go through there's nothing on my bus at all, Jack. Mm-hmm. And I just keep it all separate.
I was gonna say, is there like a map in the bus that just says like, okay?
No, but I do know where. And I do know what states to have weed on me and do not have weed on me. And there's some states there's serious jail time involved.
Yeah.
And until we get this whole thing, we realize the benefits of it. Like in Pennsylvania, they're up for marijuana consideration. Last year they spent $100 million in prosecuting and against the war on just marijuana. $100 million. So that'd be savings and huge tax base. And it's happening here in Illinois as well.
Yeah.
And, there's not one farmer that would wouldn't like to just grow something different, just to rotate crops, to help their soil. And marijuana does that. It's one of the few plants that actually inserts nutrients back into the soil, as opposed to leach them out. Yeah. If you grow corn every year, your soil is going to get bad. You have to up the production, so you put nitrogen-based fertilizer on it, and when that runs off into the water system, it creates algae plumes that kill fish, that upset the ecosystem. But if you just plant marijuana one year, and you can tax it, ship it, cigarette companies would love to be able to make marijuana cigarettes. People just grow it. Yeah, maybe, but people can just grow tomatoes. Yeah. They still sell them at the store. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, let's make money on this, and that way we can gain more tax base without people who don't want it having to be taxed, which I think is a great thing too.
Yeah. Well, and I looked over here and I see you, but I hear Joe Rogan. Like you just been possessed by Joe Rogan.
That's so funny you say that, because when I came to LA, Rogan never smoked weed at all. And he would call me and my buddy Joe Diaz losers for smoking weed. And now he's one of the largest advocates of marijuana ever. But it's so funny. If we had just discovered marijuana in the Amazon, and we'd realized, as well as all its psychotropic, effects, but there's actually health benefits to it, with the cannabinoids that they're used now for children with epilepsy. Yeah. You go from 12 seizures a day and that child's going to die to less than one every 6 months, because they're taking these pills with these cannabinoids, and yeah, they're getting a little high, but you know what? They're not shaking themselves to death. Their brain's not having a thunderstorm, of electrical activity, and they're not going to die. Right. It's like there's so many more benefits, cancer patients, AIDS patients, digestive people. There's so many things, people with arthritis, you don't have to be addicted to painkillers. Sure. It would be a really, really great thing if we did, and we could tax it and make money. It's like, and to see it, we've legalized gambling with the lottery. Okay. Alcohol has been legal since we realized the fallacy of that prohibition. And yet this has been the one thing that stayed. And it's like, they wouldn't have 48,000 deaths in Mexico if we legalized drugs here. And we wouldn't have all this gang wars that you have here in Chicago if we took the money out of it. People don't innately want to kill other people for the vast majority. A lot of times it's just business. Okay. And if you eliminate that business, then some people have to do something else. Yeah. And that would be a benefit, regulated. And why, spend the money, to when we're not curbing it, when you show the countries that have legalized all drugs, the amount of addicts has gone down, and Portugal, for instance. And I think it was 98, they legalized all drugs, and now there's 50% less addicts than there was. In Switzerland, they're giving heroin addicts just enough to keep them from going into withdrawal. Okay,
right, so the methadone.
Yeah, methadone, and it's crimes dropped. People are healthy.
I mean, and that's a huge argument here in Illinois. And there was recently a mother who testified about her child's seizures and whatnot. Right. The thing that I am again, I'm an avid comedy fan and an avid listener. So that you in these podcasts, I listen to the most educated, passionate potheads that just are not the potheads I knew, right, growing up with. Right. But then the other flip side of it is like, yeah, there is a recreational side, and you only have to listen to Ari Shaffir's podcast, right, or any Joey Diaz podcast. Yeah. Where he,
these are my buddies. Yeah. It's so crazy that you're so familiar with them.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the podcast brotherhood, but, name an episode where Joey is not, giving a cookie to some unsuspecting soul.
Oh, that's so funny.
Kreischer's dad.
Yeah. Got Kreischer's dad high. That's awesome. Yeah, and he's as straight as it gets. He's a Republican from I forget the name of the county, but they just had an election. They had a special election down in Tampa. All right, and his dad's big in the Republican Party down there. Got him fucked up on marijuana cookie, and he was like, "This is great." And then when he came down, how dare you? Okay, yeah, when the life, when the shame of that has to be put on it. But if we just took away the shame, we could really tax the hell out of it, make a lot of money. It just seems like a smart move, When, you drive around Chicago, it's not like y'all couldn't use extra tax money, all right? You got potholes that you take a barrel down to the bottom of. I mean, these potholes are incredible. I mean, it's like, let's fix the roads. How about that, Wouldn't that be nice? And build a bigger road that you don't have to take, from Schaumburg to downtown Chicago, be a 3-hour drive. That's you're just sitting in traffic the whole way. It's ridiculous. What y'all put up with is stuff I would never put up with, man. Never.
Well, we have wandered afar, but that's a sign of a good podcast.
Yeah, right.
You've been listening to the Big Questions podcast, part of the Sun-Times Media Local Podcast Network. Our music is by Hernan Sanchez, and our guest has been Ralphie May. Ralphie, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man. And this is, I got to be honest, not the experience that I was thinking about. I was thinking about it was going to be, it's a newsroom, people running with news, talking, pitching, what are you doing? Our lawyers will never take this. Okay. And there's secrets, I found out the mayor's cheating, with, this person.
That's the other room. This is just the room we show you.
Oh, okay. All right. This is.
Yes.
So this is like an aquarium right now. We're looking out a window to people just kind of idly going by. And doing
we're between, a tax insurance office and a morning zoo. So we try to keep it.
Okay. That's awesome.
Ralphie, thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, brother.